Welcome to Chasing the Insights, the podcast designed for you, the marketer, the entrepreneur, the small business owner. I'm your host, Vince Warnock, and in each episode we talk to the biggest and brightest brains in marketing, extracting every ounce of insight to give you that unfair advantage as you grow your business. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Chasing the Insights. How you're doing? I'm Vince Warnock, and thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day. Oh my goodness, to join me here as I get to talk to some of the most creative, but also some of the most, I talk about taking time out of your day to day. This is some of the people that have more time in their day because they know how to do things right. And you're going to know exactly what I mean very shortly because I'm about to introduce you to Lloyd Thompson. But before I do that, I don't want you to miss a single episode of this show. So whatever platform, whatever app, whatever tool, you know how it is. If you haven't already, reach out and give that subscribe or follow button a push. That way you're notified every single time there's a new episode. Anyway, my friends, oh my goodness, I'm super psyched about this episode. I'm here to introduce you to Lloyd Thompson. Now, Lloyd has spent over 20 years in the corporate world in technical and leadership roles before finally realizing he can do so much more in this world, and became a director of operations service on a fractional basis. So basically, he is the virtual director of operations, which I absolutely love. He is also the author of 9 Ways to Leave Your Day-to-Day Operations. It's a book that helps business owners just like you to know where your blind spots are and to know how a director of operations can help you if you want to delegate these ways to someone else. Oh my goodness. But more importantly, he's here to talk to us about 3 different ways that you can leave your day-to-day. So I know you're all paying attention right now. Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us, my man. It is such an honor having you on the show.
Vince, so thank you so much for having me. And I love the intro there. So I really hope that I can maximize the value here by getting into those 3 ways in just a bit.
Oh man, I'm so looking forward to this. So honestly, as soon as me and Lloyd met, it was just like, oh man, you just know straight away when you meet some people. I'm going, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's super smart. And he's got some actual genuine ways that are going to help you and your business. So very excited about that. But before we kind of dive into the 3 ways to leave your day to day, give us your backstory, Lloyd. Like, tell us how you got to where you are now, why you're so passionate about what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Vince. Well, as we said before, I was in corporate for 20 years. The first 10 years, I was a computer programmer.
I feel like just hearing you're in corporate for 20 years, I should say, oh, you poor thing. Yeah, especially in
that's true. It's true. My first 10 years as a computer programmer, and I think that came from this moment years back in my childhood where I'd broken the family computer. I'd seen what appeared to me being a wizard typing stuff into the black screen, which looked like a magic spell. And I thought, I want to do that. And I typed those things into the black screen, which I later discovered was something called DOS. And I destroyed the family computer. And from that point on, having met with this person again and again to come and fix the computer, I thought, I want to do this. So I spent 10 years in corporate world as a computer programmer, and then later on moved into managing people and teams and so forth. So that's where it all began. But as you pointed out a minute ago, that my love affair with staying in corporate world is, somewhat diminished over the time. And I think
we call that getting wiser. Yeah.
Getting wiser. I think the slow bureaucratic way that decisions get made, or toxic relationships, top-down decisions.
Yeah.
I was over it. And then COVID happened. And COVID's been one of the hugest transformations in people's lives. I mean, who enabled work from home? Was it the CEO or was it the CIO? No, it was COVID.
Exactly.
And working from home for me was just such a new thing. I replaced my commute with surfing, and I just felt so much better every day. And then the thought of eventually going back to an office, I don't want to go back to a brightly lit office. The thought of that just made me feel sick, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so I was very much over corporate world. And so it leads me to how I started this business, how I got into where I am now. Well, part of this relates to surfing, oddly enough. I was going surfing on my morning commute, and I started giving these hobby surf reports to a group of people, and this group expanded. And one day I met this guy. His name is James Shamko. He's quite a well-known business coach. And I said to him, how can I get out of corporate world, like with my skills, what can I do in business world? And he said, well, what are you good at? And I said, well, running teams of people, projects and operations, process improvement. He said, you sound like an integrator. That sounds like a technical role, like this term integrator, certainly in Australia where I am, that's not really a term I was familiar with. I said, what's that all about? And he said, well, read this book. It's called Rocket Fuel, and it talks about the relationship between the visionary and the integrator. A visionary is like typically the founder or the business owner, the person who's all about change and strategy. And the integrator is another word for them is COO or director of operations, as I choose to use it. The person who focus on run, making things smooth. So understanding that more, just to paint a picture, everyone, like what this actually is. The visionary is the person, again, who provides the direction and the strategy. The integrator, or as I call it, director of operations, sits between the visionary and the team. And they like make the bumps in the road smooth. They're passing on the steering from the founder to the wheels. That's what we do.
Basically, like a dream come true to most CEOs. That's the way I would word that. Yeah.
I hope so. And we've had some very nice endorsements and testimonials. Yeah. And so that's how it all began. I got my first client through my coach. He said, maybe talk to this guy and see if you can solve his problem. Yeah. And that was a huge e-commerce. And that's how it all began. And eventually now I'm in a position where I've actually started to hire director of operations. So it's no longer me. I'm now supporting and coaching my team.
I love this.
I think there was
kind of birthed out of COVID as well. Like, I'm very hesitant to say this because I'm very aware of the toll that COVID had on a lot of people. But COVID also produced a lot of really good stuff. And part of that was getting people to rethink what's important to them. And then more people started to see what, you and I already come to the conclusion of, which was that, corporate is quite toxic and it's not healthy. And
absolutely.
Sick feeling you're talking about of going back into the office. I think a lot of people felt that as well. So it's just fascinating to me. I think out of this pandemic, it's almost like a global reset where people are going, hey, you know what? I've slaved away in this flaming corporate for so long, feeling inadequate, feeling like I'm constantly failing, feeling like I don't belong. And then now I have the freedom to do what I need to do. So I love that.
It was the great refocus. And I'm still keep up with a lot of those folks in corporate. And I went to a Christmas party recently and they said, oh, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, and I explained about my business. And now I've got to the point where I, probably do 20 hours a week. Saying,
see, I told you all he works less than all of us. Yeah.
Is he for real? I said, this is I've designed this lifestyle and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. My coach, but also this work from home is brilliant. So
I love that. I had similar with around pay. When I left Cigna, you leave a CMO role and everyone's like, are you insane? You're going to do what? Just your own thing? Well, good luck. We know how much you were getting paid here. And I'm like, yeah. It took very little time to realize you can actually make way more money out in your own world than in the corporate sector. So it was just a big eye opener for me going, why didn't I do this before? Now I know everything has its timing, so it's not that big a deal, but yeah. All right. Well, we're going to dive into, and thank you for sharing your story. I just honestly, I love the fact everything just came from surfing. So we're going to dive into this topic, which is 3 ways to leave your day to day. But before we go into those 3 ways, let's get everyone on the same page. Because when we say leaving the day to day, people are going to have different interpretations of that. Some people will think boots and all. Some people think part-time. Some people think, leaving the day to day is just maybe working from home. Give us your definition to make sure we're all on the same playing field.
Yeah, I'm talking to business owners. So I see business owners getting stuck running their operations. I see them scattergunning the team with tasks every day because they know no better way how to do it. And as a result, because they can't extract themselves out of all of the meetings, they can't extract themselves from making all the decisions. They seem to be doing too much administration themselves. And as a result, the impact of this is they don't have a sellable business, because if their business is them, what are you going to sell? Like, you can't extract a founder, so good luck. And then things like focusing on change and strategy for the company. So where do I want the business to go? What are the goals? They can't do that because they're sucked in. They're spending all of their time talking to the team, delegating making decisions on behalf of people and doing too much administration. So yeah, really about being in the operations space when I don't think they should be doing that.
I love that. So basically it's about letting go. So
yeah, let it go. Hand the reins over.
Exactly.
Stop doing it all.
Yeah, I'm feeling some Frozen soundtracks starting to come on now, which is scary. Now, before we kind of get into some of the ways, those 3 ways that we talked about there, why do you think, because anyone listening to this right now is probably tense, and they're probably tensing up a little bit, going, whoa, hold on, stepping away from the day-to-day, it won't succeed without me, or, I'm so tied to everything in my business, or it's so tied to me, which isn't the truth in reality. So why is it that we as entrepreneurs feel this weird connection and feel this anxiety when we have to let these things go?
I feel like they feel like they can do it better than everyone else. And perhaps there are some things that they can, but they're just it's their baby. They care about it the most. Yeah. The flip side of that is I've seen, I've worked with a lot of customers, and we had one that only stayed with us a couple of months, and that was we gave them lots of advice, but they would not let go of the reins. It's like, come on, hand over the reins, hand over the reins, hand over the reins. And it's because they just can't imagine that someone else is going to have their spin on it their way.
Yeah.
But the reality is, even though a business might vary from place to place, there's certain things around operations that are quite similar. It's how to run a team, put measurements in place. And again, some of these 3 ways I'm just about to mention.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's their baby. They're super connected to it. They think they can do it better than anyone else. But actually, a lot of these people, and I remember in one of your earlier podcasts, you made reference to someone saying a lot of these founders, they have ADHD, and that's actually not a detriment. That's like their superpower. They have next shiny object syndrome, and as a result, they're trying to spin 1,000 plates, but they're not getting traction because really they need to focus on the top 3 that are going to move the needle.
Yeah, oh man, I love this. The irony is we should just push record when we first jumped on the call there, because we were talking about all the things I'm launching this year and all that. Basically, it was just a lesson in ADHD mind. And I will say this, I love that, man. And I know for myself, when I've struggled to let things go as well, there is that element, like you said. It is that I know my business better than everyone, so therefore I know how it should operate. I know the even interaction with clients. I'm hesitant in some cases to put my team in front of clients because I know they don't have the same energy as me. They don't have the same sense of encouragement, empowerment, and like lifting people up. But in reality, I also learned that a large portion of me not letting go was fear. And it was fear of it being done wrong, but it was also fear of being irrelevant. And if we get really brutal about it, because, for a lot of us, our sense of identity is tied to our business, which means that when you're stepping away from the business and letting other people run it, are you losing your identity? Which, of course, the answer is definitely not. You're not losing your identity at all. If anything, you are going to be more respected, and you're going to be your team's going to grow. You're going to be able to produce more output, and like you said, we're going to get to spend more time doing the strategic stuff that we need to do. So this is so important. I love this. Oh man, I'm so happy to get you on the show, Lloyd. All right, well, let's dig into this then. So we're talking about the 3 ways to leave the day today. So give us the first one of those.
The first way is what your first hire should be. So if you're a solopreneur, I would almost certainly say your first hire should be a VA.
So not a partner, not a chauffeur, a VA. Gotcha.
Well, maybe you can combine the roles. I don't know. A VA, and I think if you're a solopreneur, you're probably an expert in your area, and maybe you're pumping out lots of delivery. But there is some stuff that perhaps you shouldn't be doing, and this was certainly true for me when I started. And that stuff is the admin. So for me, when I started my business, and my first hire was a VA, I was doing payroll. So I was doing the invoicing, accounts payable, accounts receivable. I was doing my bookkeeping, and then I was cutting up my podcast and stuff that I was doing, the social media stuff, and then I was posting it out on all those platforms. I can give that to someone else. So that was my first hire, and that makes a huge difference. And think, if you just give all of that stuff to someone else, think how much value you could create instead of doing that administration yourself. Instead, now focusing that on the delivery, and that you're easily going to pay
Yeah.
It's easily going to pay for itself in no time. And to give you an idea of how much a VA in the Philippines can cost, I currently hire people for my team, and they're more than a VA.
Yeah.
These are like operations management folks who also do some admin. So if they're not picking up the highest level tasks, they can do admin and they do stuff for me, but they can do stuff for the clients. They can like run an SOP initiative.
Yeah.
I can get someone with those skills full time who will work remotely. So that's what's in it for them. They don't have to travel for 3 hours in a jeepney to get to central Manila. $1,000 a month. You can have someone with that skill set. So it makes you think, why wouldn't you do that? Like these are degree educated people. So that's my first tip. I mean, yourself a VA, get that admin off.
I love that too. And it's this is going to, when any ADHD people of you are listening, and it's most of you, to be fair, when you're listening, where this is really going to hit home for you is this, right? So think about your process. Like you come up with new ideas every single day. I mean, most ADHD entrepreneurs do. We have shiny objects, shiny new thing. You come up with these new ideas, but then that kind of dread hits you, which is executing that's going to be a pain in the butt because I've got so much work to do on this. Imagine being able to give ideas like that to someone, to be able to outsource them to someone, so you can come up with that fresh stuff and say, hey, let's test this and see if it works. Give that to my team. My team will take care of it. And ta-da, we got a good result, or we can learn from that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I can tell you now, it was a revelation getting a team on board for me as well. And I did find it, I'll be honest, I did find it difficult. I really did. When my first hire, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to find the right things for them. I worried that I'd have to teach them too much, but these are super smart people and they're awesome. And they work really hard as well because they've got a good ethic. The interesting thing for me, though, the challenge was, because I've got Filipino VAs as well, where the challenge for me was the fact that you're going, oh man, that's not much money. Like I'm paying, $8 an hour for one of them. And I'm thinking they're what they're doing is worth so much more than that. Forgetting that where they're living, they're actually very wealthy. They're doing very well. And I'm not their only client. They have like 2 or 3 clients all up who are paying really good money for this in their economy. So it was just a weird mindset to get my head around.
It's just a low cost locate, it's the locate. If you could live there and if you could buy property there, it's just so much cheaper to live.
That's it. So very interesting point. So, might have to look at the Philippines. No, too restricted. Okay, well, question for you before we go into the second one then is, like, how do we know what the first things because obviously our first hire has got to be a VA, but how do we know what the first things we should outsource are? How do we know that VA?
Right. So actually, there's something I would recommend you do actually, and I would write down. This is a good thing to do regardless of whether you have a team or not, because it really makes you meditate on what you're doing is of value. I would write down all of the tasks that you do on a month, right? The repetitive. So daily, weekly, monthly, maybe reoccurring ad hoc, and look at those and really think, does this need to be me? Like, is this the kind of thing that the founder or owner of this business should be doing? Or could it be delegated off? This is something, the task audit. Do the task audit. And then you can, bookkeep, any kind of administration can be handled. Anything that you can train another person to do, they can pretty much do. The bits that around the strategy, that's you. The bit about working on this product that is your business and what the next iteration of the product is going to be, and the relationships and shaking the tree for new business, that's you. But almost everything else should be delegated off.
Interesting. I love that approach too, because they'll probably go through the same thing you and I probably went through, which is writing it down and going, I can't delegate that. Oh, wait a minute, actually, okay, maybe I'm just being a bit too sensitive there. So okay, all right. Well, let's dive then into the second way that we can leave our day to day.
So this is probably more applicable when you have a bit of a bigger team. So there becomes a point where founder has a bigger team now, and then they're still scattergunning the team with tasks, and it feels like chaos. They are focusing on the next shiny object all the time, and you need to break that and get a rhythm in place. And that's not necessarily a natural thing for a founder to do, especially if they're that kind of high visionary character who's got a bazillion ideas. But to be honest,
the technical term for that is the chasing the insights audience.
Probably. It's the classic business owner mentality, and I see it all of the time. And so what they need is structure and rhythm, and that's hard for them to do. So either they're going to do the next thing themselves, or they're going to hire someone to do it. And if they've got enough, they've got enough revenue to afford it, I highly recommend they look at getting in a director of operations. And okay, what's this person actually going to do, right? They're going to put these rhythms in place. And I can just mention a number of meetings that they would run. But before I also get into that, like, are they going to run meetings? I would also say that pointless meetings should be gone. Like, if you're just going to share some knowledge with someone, don't do a meeting. Put it into a Loom video and just say, hey, here's some info for you. Then they can replay as much. They can even respond with a Loom video.
I love
so that. Let's go back to meetings. I would say there's 5 that come across a lot, but I'm going to focus on 2. So the 5 are a prioritization meeting, and I'll dig into that more in a minute. A team meeting, no surprises what goes on there. One-on-ones, so just catching up with people and finding out how we can help. Team huddles and retrospectives. But what I really just want to focus on, because I can talk a lot about all of those things, is a prioritization and a team meeting. And because those things really are the most valuable things that director of operations will do. So the first one, the prioritization meeting, this is about the founder and the visionary sitting down with the director of operations and them having a chat about, okay, we've got these 1,000 plates that have been spinning, right? What are the top 3 that we can focus on that are going to get traction? Like, what are the top 3? So the director of operations can come up with the 3 or whatever they're going to be, however many there are, and prioritize and say, I think we should tackle this one, then this one, then this one. And this is also a meeting where the visionary and the director of operations can get on the same page, soundboard any ideas, and solve, work out the priority, and then go on. And then that sets the director of operations to go forth and make it happen.
Love that.
And why this is an important meeting is this director of operations is almost like the key single point to the team. So it saves that founder, that visionary, then having to go out and scattergun the entire team with tasks. No, from now on, their key contact point is that director of operations who they're going to talk to, agree on the priority, and they just go and roll it out. So that's the first. That's the first one. Yeah.
This is awesome, man. I just, the prioritization meeting, like, honestly, when you started describing that, I just felt this sense of relief just going, man, just to sit down, like, as a founder, just sit down with your director of operations and go, here's the key things, like, between the 2 of you that we should be focused on. And then to know that that's taken care of in the background. That is a dream come true for most founders, because it does mean that you're not second guessing your team. You're not constantly thinking, are they doing what they should be doing, or am I giving them the right things, or are they equipped for that? It's basically going, here's the vision, here's the strategy, here's where we're headed. Yes. And then somebody else can take that and distill that in amongst the team, which I think is awesome. So give us a very quick, and I know I'm very conscious of the time. We're going to go into the third one in a second, but the team meeting, like, how do you specific ways of running those, or like, how do you generally focus?
So the first thing, I'll make a general comment about meetings in general. Now it's more than just 2 people; it's a few people. And I read this great book called Meetings Suck. And it had in there, it talked about one of the chapters, chapter 10, if anyone wants to go there. I've got it, stapled down. It talked about if you're going to have a meeting, how to keep them on track. And so I've got 2 roles that I got from that book, which I use. It's brilliant. One's called the timekeeper, and the other one's called the parking lot manager. So you can give someone in that team meeting, so, right, you're the timekeeper, right? Everyone gets 10 minutes each. We're going to run through the agenda, keep them on track, remind them that there's got 2 minutes left or whatever for their segment, and move us on. So that's an active role you can give to someone.
Yeah.
And the other one is the parking lot manager. I love this term. So if someone, and I love a tangent, unfortunately, but if someone
I live in the tangent,
going down a rabbit hole, here we go. But if someone's going to take us down something that's going to be off topic for this meeting, perhaps a little bit disruptive, giving someone the role of parking lot manager says, hey, that's a really valuable point. We're going to capture that. We're going to put it in the parking lot. I'm going to take note of it. And that parking lot manager who is listening in for these items will organize and schedule another meeting and have it later. So that's just a little side tip on team meetings or group meetings as a whole. Okay. back to team meetings. For me, the focus of this meeting is finding out what support people need. So if we've got a group of department heads or people who are responsible for different areas, there needs to be some kind of measurable that they have to say whether things are going good or bad, red or green. So it might be sales, number of sales calls. It might, if it's a warehouse, number of widgets coming out or delivery times, whatever they are, some kind of key measures that we can have dashboarded to say what's red and what's green.
Yeah.
And that should be the discussion points. And when it's red, we get around each team, what's going well, what could be improved. When we get to those reds, that's where we can turn around. Director of operations can say, okay, what do we need? What support do we need? And they can focus a separate meeting on looking at what needs to be done. So that's what we're trying to do. Assess where there's any challenges and where we can improve, and where we can take it to the next level. And so making a red to a green might be more staff, it might be more investment, it might be, let's have a look through the SOP and see where we can change it as a team. It might be perhaps the wrong person is running this, that's another real thing. Yeah. So that's just the other key thing. And the other thing about this is that then feeds back to the first meeting I talked about earlier, the prioritization meeting, because the reds, where you see the reds, will dictate the priorities for the founder and the director of operations to talk about. So, yeah, those are just the two key meetings I think that are absolutely essential. And if you're bringing in a director of operations, that's where most of their energy comes from, like those two meetings.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I love this. So I like the way you run the team meetings as well with what support people need. Because there are too many times, honestly, you should see one of my project teams, their team meetings with that is just, we're all ADHD, every single person on the founding team. So it's just tangent after tangent. So actually putting in place a timekeeper and a parking lot manager is going to be really useful to keep us on track. But also if our focus is around on what you need, I think that's going to shape the meeting anyway. I quite like that. All right, well, let's dive in because we're running out of time. We'll dive into what is the third way that we can leave our day to day.
Yeah, Vince, you might need to. I can talk about this topic a lot, so I won't be offended if you shut me down. This one
that's not in your book, is that right?
This is not in my book, but it comes up a lot, and I kick myself for not putting this in, but it didn't. I'd have then had to have 10 ways to lead the day-to-day operation. It didn't sound as punchy.
Because everyone's going to get a copy of your book. Like everyone wants to get a copy of that. So they get the 9 ways, but because they're listening to the show, they get the 10th way.
This is a bonus.
It's like turning the dial up to 11. I love this.
Right here, right now. Yeah. This is about deciding versus delegating. And so I was talking earlier about scattergunning the team with tasks. I get this thing. I get frustrated business owners coming to me and they're saying, why am I doing all the deciding around here? Why do they come to me to make all the decisions? Isn't that common sense? And as a result, they get stuck in the daily operations. Then they can't hand over the reins. They're involved in absolutely everything. But here's the thing. A lot of the time, I believe they are the problem.
Yep.
And that seems a little bit sharp around the edges. But if when someone comes to you with a problem, you give them a solution, you're training them to expect that. Absolutely. So you have to break. You have to break that. So it's like now when someone comes to you with a problem, even if the solution is so clear in your mind of what you think the solution is, you have to coach. So you're going to say, okay, well, and also give them the expectation that you're not going to give them the answer. You want them to do some thinking. So you go, well, I don't know. What do you think? What would you recommend me do? And then ask them questions. Now, if you've got a solution in your mind, you can ask them questions that lead them there.
Yeah.
But don't be too rigid about your solution being the right one, because by asking them the questions that you had led yourself to your solution, you might find they had a better idea than you did. And you just go with it. And this is the start of getting people to think and start making decisions.
I just think this is super important, man. Like the one of the things I always look at is, because this is one of the things, is if you're running a team and you're not empowering them to make these decisions, and what you just talked about then was obviously empowering them to do that. If you're not empowering them to make decisions, then they're always second guessing themselves. They always think, I can't make that decision because I need approval for that, or I need to make sure I'm not doing something wrong. So what you're doing with this, with teaching the team to think for themselves, is you're basically creating the anti-corporate culture. You're literally saying to people, hey, this isn't where you have to constantly justify your own, existence in a corporate place and constantly look like you know what you're doing. You can make your own decisions, and if they don't work, I'm still going to back you.
I love the way you put that. Yeah. And I will say that there's another thing though. If you do this, you have to give them a little bit of leeway to make mistakes, because people won't. If you don't make failure safe, they're not going to open up and start being creative. So you need to let them make mistakes. And you, as the founder, you would have made mistakes. I've made loads of mistakes.
Yeah. But here's the key. You're so right, because one of the things we have to do as founders is actually admit we make mistakes. Like we joked about it then, but the fact is you're not going to empower your team to be able to be, safe mistakes if you're not showing that you make errors as well. Like the more you can actually say, look, I screwed up on this, made a poor decision on this. Apologies, everyone. Here's what I learned from that. You're giving them permission to do the same, which means they're going to take risks. And that's what you want, is you want them to take calculated risks.
Yeah.
So they can move forward. This is awesome.
Yeah. I used to have this large team in the Philippines in when I was in corporate world. I have a team now, but it's nowhere near the size of the team I had in corporate world. And it was very hierarchical when I inherited this team. Yeah. And there was a culture of don't challenge the boss. And they would agree all the time. And I thought this sucks, because I would let them know, look, if I do something stupid, if you let me do something stupid, I'm going to be more upset. So I started creating tests, and this wasn't too hard to do, of coming up with ridiculous ideas and seeing if they would let me go ahead with it. And then I switched to that more coaching model of like, hey, okay, what do you want to do? What do you think is the best thing to do? And it really had to break that culture using what we talked about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
I'd like to mention as well, that was most of what I talked about earlier was I was using that on the context of an individual coaching. And you can also use this with teams. And I've got a framework I just want to very quickly run through. And again, if we run out, by all means, slow me down. If you're running a team, you can do team coaching. And I use this framework. And I did get this from corporate world. It was called GROW. And that stands for goal, reality, options, wrap up. And I'm just going to give you a brief example of how I coach a team to come up with solutions. So the context is there's some kind of problem, whether it's a people challenge or a technical problem. I need to get the band together. I need to get who can solve this problem, get them together, whether it's virtually or in a meeting. And we're going to work out how we're going to solve it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the example of a server meltdown because that's close to my heart. I've seen a few of them.
Oh, I've seen a few of those as well. Not fun. You made me anxious just thinking about that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Everything's going to be fine, Vince.
Okay, cool.
Get the people together, and I state what the goal is. So the goal is the server's melted down. What are we going to do to fix it? Understand why it did, and how we're going to prevent it from ever happening again. So clearly, like, why is everyone here?
Yeah.
The second bit is key. This is a reality. So my trick here is I'm not the best artist, but I'd start drawing out boxes and arrows, whether it's on a virtual room or in person, of what I think the problem is. I don't try too hard to do this. And techie folks in particular can't stand things being wrong. Yeah. So they will want to jump in at that point, even if they're quite introverted types. This is the thing. Hand over to them as soon as you can. Give them the pen. Get them to start involving. And then you switch to being the person asking questions. Oh, okay. Is that how it works? Is that reality? Is that where we are? How would you fix that? And by asking them the questions, this being the key point, you're getting the team's buy-in by asking them their questions.
Yes.
And you're getting them to come up with the solutions. It's no longer you. And so that is the key point of this. Finally, the W piece of that is wrap up. And that's basically getting the team to agree on what option you're going to do, what the reality was, and go forth. And so that's how I use the example of team coaching.
I love that example. And yeah, so much in there. I love that you finished on wrap up too, because guess what we're about to do? So, perfect segue, man. All right, Lloyd, we are at the point of the show where I need to ask you the same question I asked all my guests. So what are your 3 practical tips you advise every entrepreneur to do right now for their business?
Yeah, perfect. Okay. First up, hire a VA. If you haven't hired a VA, get one of those. It has to be. Second one, if your team's big enough, get yourself a director of operations. Nice. More importantly, make sure you've got structures and rhythms in place so you are not scattergunning the team with tasks.
Yep.
And thirdly, don't be deciding, be delegating. Delegate the outcome that you want and use coaching to get them there.
I love this stuff. See, I knew getting you on the show was going to be awesome, Lloyd.
Thanks so much.
I mean, anytime you and I catch up, it is a lot of fun. So this is just purely an excuse for the two of us to hang out. But within this, you've all learned so much, which is awesome. I've learned so much as well. Now, I'm going to leave links to everywhere you can connect with Lloyd in the show notes for this episode. So you all know what to do. You're going to go to chasingtheinsights.com. You're going to look for Lloyd's smiling face there. You're going to think to yourself, he only works 20 hours a week and he does surfing. So lucky. But no, it's not lucky. It's by design. And that's why you want to click on all those hyperlinks there. Connect with him on social, go to his website, but also get yourself a copy of the 9 Ways to Leave Your Day-to-Day Operations book.
Here it is.
There you go. Plus, of course, you've got the 10th one here in the episode as well. This is awesome. Hey, Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us, my man. Seriously, it's an
Thanks so much,
privilege having you here. Wonderful. All right, everyone, like I said, go and click on all those links, go to the show notes and click on everything and connect with Lloyd. Like, seriously, Lloyd is legit. I fully recommend Lloyd. I'm not paid to say this. I mean, you guys know this. I don't, take advertising or sponsorship or affiliate links or anything like that, but I'm just connected with genuine people around the world who want to impact you, who want to impact the world. And Lloyd is one of those in spades. So make sure you connect with him everywhere. Plus, of course, don't forget to subscribe or follow to the show if you haven't already. That way you don't miss out on a single episode. But more importantly, you don't miss out on the gold you just heard right now. I mean, seriously, think about it. Make sure you listen to the show again. Grab a pen, grab a paper, take notes, act on those notes. Super important. It's going to transform your business and it's going to transform you. All right, my friends, that is the formal part of the show out of the way. But before you run away, and I know you're all dying to get a copy of that book, as you should, but before you run away, I just want you to pause for a moment and I want you to hear something because it's something that is super important, right? It's something that you need to, in fact, I can guarantee you don't hear this enough. And that is the fact that you, my friend, you're an incredible human being. You really are. And you're destined for very, very big things. Now, I know you're rolling your eyes. I can see that, by the way. I can look right through the speaker now, right into your ears, into your brain, and see you rolling your eyes and going, oh, but Vince, I don't feel special. I don't feel incredible. I don't feel like I've got a big destiny, or I'm always doubting myself. Yep. And you're going, but you've also just had Lloyd on the show. How can you call me incredible? He's amazing. I'm like, yeah, he is. But I'm calling you incredible for a simple reason, and that's because you are. You really are. And that is truth. That is fact. It is unquestionable. And I won't hear another word about that. So there. But what I will tell you is this. You're incredible for so many different reasons. But one of those we're going to talk about right now is the fact that you are an entrepreneur. Right? And you've heard me say this before on this show, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, basically, is that you are an entrepreneur. And if you feel like you're not incredible, you feel like there's nothing special about you, think about what you're actually doing. Think about what you're achieving as an entrepreneur. You are taking something that does not exist, right? Whether it's a thought, a seed, a concept, an idea, this abstract thing that doesn't exist. You're taking that and you're literally calling it into existence. You are birthing it into this world. Now, first of all, that's freaking amazing. And secondly, that makes you incredible. So on behalf of both Lloyd and myself, we just want to wish you all of the health, all of the wealth, all of the happiness, the success, and the love that you so rightfully, and I do mean rightfully, deserve. So keep putting one foot in front of each other, my friend. Keep pressing into that destiny that is waiting for you. Seriously, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is calling to you right now, saying that you need to be in this destiny. So step into that, keep pressing in, and keep being the incredible human being that you are. Now, this is Chasing the Insights. I'm Vince Warnock. You, my friend, are awesome. And don't you ever forget it. And I'll see you in the next episode.